General classes of chemical messengers in detail. Very long answer. ChatGPT. Chemical messengers play a crucial role in communication within organisms, transmitting information between cells and tissues. They are broadly categorized into several classes based on their chemical nature and mode of action. Hormones. Endocrine hormones, secreted by endocrine glands. They travel through the bloodstream to target distant tissues or organs. Examples include insulin, thyroid hormones, and growth hormone. Paracrine hormones act on neighboring cells without entering the bloodstream. An example is prostaglandins, which regulate inflammation and pain. Autocrine hormones act on the same cells that produce them. Autocrine hormones act on the same cells that produce them. Transforming growth. Examples include insulin, thyroid hormones, and growth hormone. Paracrine hormones act on neighboring cells without entering the bloodstream. An example is prostaglandins, which regulate inflammation and pain. Autocrine hormones act on the same cells that produce them. Transforming growth factor beta TGF-beta. Paracrine hormones act on neighboring cells without entering the bloodstream. An example is prostaglandins, which regulate inflammation and pain. Autocrine hormones act on the same cells that produce them. Transforming growth factor beta TGF-beta is an example that regulates cell growth and differentiation. Neurotransmitters. Released by neurons at synapses to transmit signals across nerve cell junctions. Synapses. Examples include dopamine, serotonin, and acetylcholine. Cytokines. Proteins that regulate immune responses, inflammation, and cell communication. Examples include interleukins and tumor necrosis factor TNF. Pheromones. Chemical signals released by one organism to influence the behavior or physiology of another of the same species. They are crucial in communication for mating. Neurotransmitters. Released by neurons at synapses to transmit signals across nerve cell junctions. Synapses. Examples include dopamine, serotonin, and acetylcholine. Cytokines. Proteins that regulate immune responses, inflammation, and cell communication. Examples include interleukins and tumor necrosis factor TNF. Pheromones. Chemical signals released by one organism to influence the behavior or physiology of another of the same species. They are crucial in communication for mating, territorial marking, and social interactions in animals. Peptides and proteins. Include hormones like insulin, glucagon, and growth factors. They typically bind to cell surface receptors and initiate signaling cascades. Steroids. Derived from cholesterol, they include sex hormones estrogen, testosterone, and adrenal hormones cortisol, aldosterone. Steroids usually bind to intracellular receptors to regulate gene expression. Amines. Derived from amino acids. Examples are epinephrine and norepinephrine catecholamines, which regulate the fight or flight response, and thyroid hormones. Eicosanoids. Signaling molecules derived from fatty acids, including prostaglandins, thromboxanes, and leukotrienes. They have diverse roles in inflammation, pain, and vascular regulation. Gasotransmitters. Small molecules, including nitric oxide, NO, and carbon monoxide, CO, that act as signaling molecules involved in vasodilation, neurotransmission, and cellular signaling. Nucleotides. Include cyclic adenosine monophosphate, CAM, and cyclic guanosine monophosphate, CGMP, which act as secondary messengers in cell signaling pathways. Phytohormones, plant hormones. Regulate plant growth, development, and responses to environmental cues. Examples are auxins, cytokinins, gibberellins, and abscisic acid. These chemical messengers collectively play vital roles in coordinating various physiological processes, maintaining homeostasis, and responding to external and internal cues. Their diverse functions highlight the complexity and elegance of cellular communication systems across organisms. Peptide chemical messengers in detail. Very long answer. ChatGPT. Peptide chemical messengers are a diverse group of signaling molecules that play crucial roles in cell communication, regulation, and coordination of various physiological processes within organisms. These molecules are composed of amino acids and are synthesized as larger protein precursors that are cleaved to form the active peptides. Here's a detailed exploration of peptide chemical messengers. Synthesis and secretion. Peptide messengers are synthesized in cells as propeptides or propeptides, which are then processed into active peptides by proteolytic cleavage. They are typically released into the extracellular space through exocytosis in response to various stimuli. Receptors and signaling. Peptides usually bind to cell surface receptors. These receptors are often transmembrane proteins that initiate intracellular signaling cascades upon binding. The binding of peptides to the receptors triggers a series of events, including changes in cellular metabolism, gene expression, and ion channel activity. Examples of peptide chemical messengers. Insulin. Produced by beta cells in the pancreas, insulin regulates glucose uptake, metabolism, and storage in target tissues, primarily muscle and adipose tissue. Glucagon. Released by alpha cells in the pancreas, glucagon raises blood glucose levels by promoting glycogen breakdown in the liver glycogenolysis and stimulating gluconeogenesis. Growth hormone GH. Produced by the anterior pituitary gland, GH stimulates growth, cell reproduction, and regeneration in various tissues through the production of insulin-like growth factors (IGFs). Thyroid stimulating hormone (TSH). Secreted by the anterior pituitary, TSH regulates the production and release of thyroid hormones by the thyroid gland. Follicle stimulating hormone (FSH) and luteinizing hormone (LH). Also secreted by the anterior pituitary, FSH and LH regulate reproductive functions in both males and females, including gamete production and sex hormone secretion. Oxytocin. Produced by the hypothalamus and released by the posterior pituitary, oxytocin stimulates uterine contraction. Neurotransmitters play a crucial role in communication within the nervous system, transmitting signals between neurons and influencing various physiological processes. While their primary function is related to the nervous system, neurotransmitters also have significant interactions with the endocrine system. Here's a detailed exploration of neurotransmitters with respect to endocrinology. Neurotransmitters. Acetylcholine ACH. ACH is a major neurotransmitter in the peripheral nervous system, involved in muscle contraction, memory, and cognition. It also plays a role in the autonomic nervous system's regulation of endocrine glands, including the adrenal medulla. Dopamine. Dopamine is associated with pleasure, motivation, and reward. It affects the hypothalamus, influencing the release of hormones like prolactin and growth hormone through the hypothalamic pituitary axis. Serotonin. Serotonin is involved in mood regulation, sleep, and appetite. Dopamine. Dopamine is associated with pleasure, motivation, and reward. It affects the hypothalamus, influencing the release of hormones like prolactin and growth hormone through the hypothalamic pituitary axis. Serotonin. Serotonin is involved in mood regulation, sleep, and appetite. It influences the hypothalamus and affects the release of hormones like melatonin, which controls the sleep-wake cycle. Norepinephrine. Noradrenaline. Norepinephrine is involved in the body's fight or flight response. It influences the adrenal medulla's release of adrenaline, which is crucial for stress responses. Gamma-aminobutyric acid, GABA. GABA is an inhibitory neurotransmitter that regulates anxiety and stress responses. It can indirectly influence endocrine responses by modulating the hypothalamic pituitary axis. Glutamate. It can indirectly influence endocrine responses by modulating the hypothalamic pituitary axis. Glutamate. Glutamate is an excitatory neurotransmitter involved in learning and memory. It has interactions with the hypothalamus, impacting hormones like growth hormone-releasing hormone (GHRH). Neurotransmitter endocrine interactions. Hypothalamic pituitary axis. The hypothalamus plays a vital role in integrating nervous and endocrine functions. Neurotransmitters released by hypothalamic neurons influence the secretion of hypothalamic-releasing hormones, which, in turn, regulate anterior pituitary hormone release. Adrenal glands. The sympathetic nervous system, activated by neurotransmitters like norepinephrine, stimulates the adrenal medulla to release adrenaline and noradrenaline, which affect heart rate, blood pressure, and the body's stress response. Stress response. Neurotransmitters released during stress can trigger the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal HPA axis, leading to the release of cortisol, a stress hormone. Cortisol influences metabolism, immune response, and other functions. Neurotransmitters and reproduction. Dopamine and serotonin influence the hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis, affecting the release of hormones like prolactin, luteinizing hormone LH, and follicle-stimulating hormone FSH. Clinical significance. Neuroendocrine disorders. Imbalances in neurotransmitters can impact the function of the hypothalamus and pituitary gland, leading to hormonal imbalances. Mood disorders. Neurotransmitter imbalances are linked to mood disorders like depression and anxiety, which can indirectly influence endocrine function. Stress and hormones. Chronic stress can affect neurotransmitter levels and disrupt the endocrine system, leading to conditions like adrenal fatigue and hormonal imbalances. Hormonal regulation. Neurotransmitters contribute to the fine-tuning of hormonal release, maintaining homeostasis in the body. In conclusion, neurotransmitters are essential for neural communication but also have intricate interactions with the endocrine system. Their influence on the hypothalamus-pituitary axis and the stress response underscores their role in maintaining overall physiological balance. Understanding these interactions is crucial for a comprehensive understanding of both the nervous and endocrine system's intricate workings. Examples. ChatGPT. Certainly, here are some examples of how neurotransmitters interact with the endocrine system. Dopamine and prolactin. Dopamine inhibits the release of prolactin from the anterior pituitary. In conditions like hyperprolactinemia, where dopamine levels are low, prolactin secretion increases. This can lead to disruptions in menstrual cycles and infertility in females and reduced libido and impotence in males. Serotonin and certainly, here are some examples.